Musical chairs in the mayor's race. When the music stops, will anyone be left without a seat? The Point starts right now. Former prosecutor Jim Walden is an independent running for mayor of New York. But I have to start by asking you about the idea that you advanced a few weeks ago, that since there are so many independents in the race, that you should all agree that the person leading in the polls in September, everybody else should drop out so that one person faces off against Zohran Mamdani. Why is that?
So from my perspective, we need a clean choice between a socialist agenda and a free market agenda. And if you have 4 candidates in the race, it makes it much more likely that they will split the vote and you'll have a spoiler situation. So that idea really was, I advanced it not for my own personal gain, because my political interests and everyone else's ambitions should take a backseat to giving New Yorkers a very clean choice between one candidate and Zohran Mamdani. Whether or not the regulators agree, whether or not the other candidates agree, I didn't know that at the time, but I think it's important for New Yorkers. There's a lot of concern in the city about a spoiler situation. There are many people that want their votes to count against a socialist administration, and so that was the purpose of that idea. I see big problems and I try to solve them.
So why is it so bad for Mr. Mamdani, who won the Democratic primary overwhelmingly, to be defeated? Why is that so important?
So I think that most New Yorkers do not want a mayor who is advancing anti-Semitic policies, who has in prior years embraced actual terrorists, and someone who is so imbued by anti-police bigotry, because that's really what it is. He said he wanted to dismantle the police. He called them wicked and corrupt. You can't walk away from those words. And if we've learned anything in our politics, it's when someone says something, believe them. So I think it's a critically important moment for free market ideas to continue to be embraced in the capital of capitalism. I believe that I'll be the best mayor because I've got the most forward-looking, ambitious plans for the city. They're achievable. They're achievable based on a free market economy.
But are his ideas achievable? You know, he is credited with thinking outside the box and proposing some things like, you know, city supermarkets and free bus service and a rent freeze. Are you trying to say that those are not achievable?
Well, he might as well be talking about drilling in Alaska. The things that he wants to do are not achievable. But look at David Solomon, who's the CEO of Goldman Sachs today, just issued a statement about how terrible a rent freeze would be. But it doesn't have to be that way. I agree that the city is not affordable. My plans are going to aim to lower rents, especially for those people who are severely rent burdened. That is a better way to use our tax dollars smartly, to innovate and find ways to help people.
I guess, you know, look, affordability has become the key word in the mayoral campaign, but why will his ideas not be affordable and make things cheaper for people? And what ideas do you have that will actually make things affordable if you don't think his are workable?
Yeah, so my ideas, again, focusing on the free market, are to build aggressively to deal with the housing crisis. And my plan, it's very detailed. It has a funding mechanism.
But Mayor Adams has a city of yes. He says this is an aggressive plan that will build 80,000 units of housing.
Yeah, over the course of a long time. Mine will build 50,000 per year. His is going to build 5.5.
How is yours doable?
It's doable because I actually know the real estate community. I've worked with them over the course of 23 years in various capacities, and I know every single lever that there is in order to build aggressively.
But it still takes time to get building permits, to get capital to build these things, to find locations where you can build, and also the zoning laws to see how high up you can build and how many apartments you can put there. How do you short circuit that?
You streamline regulation. I mean, one of the innovations that I believe in is shrinking how much regulatory oversight and delay and red tape there is.
Don't you have to get the city council to go along with that?
In some ways you do, but the mayor has a lot of powers, and certainly I'm willing to test those. I mean, we need to speed development. We have to get shovels in the ground. If we're serious about a housing crisis, we call this a housing crisis for a reason. We have to take extraordinary measures, and the only way that we're really going to be able to solve the problem for the long term, so our kids can afford the city, is to build much more ambitiously.
You know, one of the things that helped Mr. Mamdani have such a big victory was he was able to mobilize younger voters. How would you mobilize younger voters to be attracted to your ideas?
So I think that I have some of the most forward-looking policies. I already have a policy out about elevating kids in poverty. Why is no one else in the race talking about that? I'm going to use part of the proceeds from an ambitious housing program to lift up the 29,000 kids in the city that are born into poverty. So I've got that plan.
How do you lift them up?
You put a certain amount of money aside from them. You take a certain amount of the percentage profits from a very ambitious housing program. If you take 5% of those profits, it still leaves plenty of room for developers, and you invest that in what I call a kids in poverty program. So you put money aside for them
But
when
what
they're
does
born.
that mean? What kind of programs are you going to do to lift kids out of poverty?
By the
Are you
time-
giving them scholarships? Are you giving them food stamps? What are you doing?
So by the time they're 18 years old, they will have a nest egg that's based on invested money on their behalf, where they get more than $100,000 that they can.
Who invests the money? Is this like the city pension plan?
It's sort of like a pension plan for kids, but you start it when they're born, so that the money grows over the course of their adolescence.
Who makes the investment decisions?
Well, the city will hire a manager to do that, the way it does with its pensions. The comptroller controls billions of dollars of pension money.
And how do you decide who gets into the program?
Any kid born into poverty. So they're a well-known cohort of people. There's like 29,000 kids that are born into poverty every year. But that's not the only way that I'm going to use free market ideas to help kids. Just today, we announced a new policy on bringing entrepreneurism into schools and starting
Shark Tank for kids.
a Shark Tank for kids. Now you read it. Thank you very much. So it's really exciting. It's going to create competitions at the neighborhood level, at the borough level, and at the citywide level. They're going to be televised.
How do you decide whose ideas you buy?
Well, every kid will get a chance. I mean, particularly those in high crime areas and NYCHA communities are going to get extra supports. And it's going to be really exciting. I mean, kids are our future. They have plenty of great ideas. And the idea is for them to think of business ideas that are either just, when they start out, they're thinking about popsicle stands and lemonade. And as they get older, they crack some of the problems in the city. And there'll be real estate, business community leaders that will be judging them. And the kids will advance through the process, and it'll be very exciting for them.
So let's talk about your idea of independents deciding to get out of the race. Andrew Cuomo has said he would do it. You have said you would do it. But Eric Adams says no way, and so does Curtis Sliwa. So if everybody stays in the race, isn't that a guarantee that Mr. Mamdani wins?
Well, I can't say it's a guarantee because we don't know what we don't know. I mean, Mamdani's may have hit a ceiling in terms of his popular support. His numbers may come down. I can't predict the future. What I can do is try to control the things that I can control. Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa have said, in my view, putting their own political interests above the city of New York, that they're not going to participate in the pledge. Okay, that's now. Let's give them some time. The idea just came out the week before last. It's a new idea. It's obviously a novel idea. I'm not surprised that so many people are behind it. Governor David Patterson supported it. Obviously, Andrew Cuomo did. Other people online are supporting it as well. But this is the kind of person I am, and this is the kind of mayor I'm going to be. Find a problem and solve it. And the pledge, if the other two candidates come along board, will solve a significant problem.
If you take a look at the polls, Mayor Adams is at 13%. It doesn't look like he has a path forward. Do you think that he could change that?
I think anyone can change poll numbers, and I was polling below him. So I'm not daunted by a poll. I'm sure he's not either. We've just gone through a Democratic primary where a guy was at 0 and then won the Democratic primary. So we all know that the polls are broken, particularly these micro polls that are coming out survey very few voters. They are still put out by the media as if they're gospel, and we all know they're not.
What about the powers of incumbency? I mean, he can go around and offer something for this company, county, something for this community, something for that community. It could help him get votes.
100%. I mean, that is certainly a power that any incumbent has. The problem with Mayor Adams is he can't run away from his record. He spent a lot of his first term embroiled in scandal. He brought a lot of that on himself. He literally was reaching into agencies before he was even elected in the general to help his campaign contributors. We've seen this story play out before. We have to choose differently. This is the time for someone outside the system who knows the system very well to guide us through a resurgence of our economy and our safety net.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be back with a panel of experts to sort out the latest political developments. I'm joined now by J.C. Polanco, assistant professor at the University of Mount St. Vincent and political strategist Trip Yang. So look, it's been a crazy week. Andrew Cuomo decided to get back into the race, but we now see a different Andrew Cuomo 2.0. What is this, and does he have a chance?
Well, this new Andrew Cuomo looks like he's had some coffee, right?
Or something.
Something. He's meeting with the press. He's coming into studios. He's meeting voters. I'm telling you, had this Andrew Cuomo been around a few weeks ago, things may have been a little different.
True.
Andrew Cuomo's coalition has already fractured. Many of the elected officials, Congress members Adriano Espaillat, Jerry Nadler, many labor unions like HTC, have already endorsed the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani, because most of the leaders, political Democratic leaders in this town, believe that the Democratic nominee usually wins a mayor's race pretty handily. Most registered voters in New York City are registered Democrats. It is a very uphill battle. Andrew Cuomo can change his presentation style, can act kind of cool and comfortable with voters. I don't know if it's staged or not, but I feel like Zohran Mamdani is the front runner.
Let me just ask you this, because we know that you are an independent and that independent voters didn't get a voice in the primary. And I know you feel really strongly about this. Can independent voters change what happened in the primary?
Absolutely. There are 1.1 million independent voters. We didn't have a say at all. It's like we don't even exist. We exist in November. There are a lot of us, and we're growing in numbers, and we're going to come out and vote. So having Andrew Cuomo, having Jim Walden, having Eric Adams run will give an opportunity for those candidates to speak to independent voters and tell us about their plans and how they will change the city moving forward. And we're going to have a say, and there are a lot of us, and we're going to be able to come out in November.
Tripp says you don't have a chance.
I think, well, considering this, let's be honest. If the opposition is split the way it is now, there's mathematically no way, because the math ain't mathin', Marcia. There's just no way possible that when you have so many divisions going up against Assemblyman Mamdani, that you have a chance. But if we have a coalition of folks that make an issue of some of the socialist policies that Assemblyman Mamdani is putting forward, talking about how
he doesn't agree.
He doesn't agree.
I'm
with
waiting for my turn.
No,
and then I'll rebut.
No, I think if
JC anytime.
No, because you take a look at the polls and you see Assemblyman Mamdani's at 36%. Listen, Tripp, the majority of New Yorkers are still looking elsewhere for someone else to vote for. So if you take a look at the polls, every poll shows them at 36%. Perhaps if the opposition is united, you have an opportunity to make the case against something.
That is a hypothetical, but look, between Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Eric Adams, you could not find a collection of New Yorkers more stubborn than those three. So Zohran Mamdani, right now, he's leading in the polls. He is winning most Democratic voters, as you expect a nominee to, but he hasn't captured all of them. As more and more Democratic labor unions, as well as elected officials and leaders endorse him, he will further consolidate. So his number is going to go up from the 30s to the 40s and higher. And crucially, he also is winning independent voters from some of the recent polling. So I think Zohran is the front runner here.
Well, you know, I just want to jump in here because there was a recent poll this past week by Harris X, which basically said it was a three-way statistical dead heat because it was a 4.1% margin of error. It had Mamdani at 26, Andrew Cuomo at 23, and Curtis Sliwa, believe it or not, at 22. So those numbers would seem to indicate that there's somewhat of a shift on the part of voters.
Of course there is. You're going to have an opportunity for the next several months for the opposition to make a case as to why you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. You can take socialist policies and put a beautiful $1 billion smile, put him on TikTok, have the most charismatic candidate on earth, in my opinion, in Zohran Mamdani. I've never seen anything like
very
this.
charismatic. The most charismatic politician since Barack Obama.
No, I didn't call him a pig. I said the policies. The policies are pig-like, not him, my goodness. No. But
JC just doesn't want more affordable rent and cheaper groceries.
I don't want to see a world. No, I don't want to see a world in where socialism is the norm. And what we're seeing now is you're taking old socialist policies and you're putting a charismatic candidate behind it, and you're trying to make it new. It's not new. People have escaped that kind of policy to come to our economy. There is no one on earth that escapes a market economy like ours to go into a socialist country. It's vice versa. So when you tell me about socialism, it doesn't bode well, and that's what we're seeing with Zohran Mamdani.
Go ahead.
I would respectfully disagree with,
with my good
colleague JC. Look, when Zohran Mamdani is talking about freezing the rent, the mayor of New York actually can do that because the mayor of New York appoints the majority of the individuals on the rent guidelines board. So for rent-stabilized apartments, that affects hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. That's something that the mayor can do.
The mayor
Absolutely.
can't do that, Trip. The law is clear. The rent guidelines board has to look at the numbers
the mayor
before
appoints the majority of the rent guidelines
But
board.
the board has to review the finances to see whether or not it makes sense.
That is good policy. It's good policy.
You want to freeze the rent, but insurance doesn't.
More affordable housing.
We do,
in this town.
but Trip, you're not going to.
I mean, landlords need to get some profit as well.
Marcia, there's no freezing on insurance costs for landlords. And small mom and pop landlords, there's no freezing on fuel costs, oil costs, maintenance costs. Freezing the rent is going to limit the supply, which makes rent even more expensive.
That's
how short-sighted it is.
We need, on the topic of affordable housing, we need all forms of housing. More investments in public housing, more investments in affordable housing, more market rate housing. Rent-stabilized housing is a specific area that Zohran's policy, if he's mayor, he would impact.
Chip, I got to ask you this question. So Jim Walden says that with all these independents in the race, there should be a deal that whoever's leading in the polls in September, the rest of them get out. Is that just a dream, a pipe dream, or could this actually happen?
Jim's idea is the right strategy because for anyone to be the Democratic nominee, unless you're Michael Bloomberg, you have $100 million, you absolutely need to consolidate the anti-Mamdani line. I don't think it's going to happen. And by the way...
It's not anti-Mamdani, it's anti-socialist.
It's an anti-democratic nominee.
You said it,
lane.
though. No, it's not.
Mamdani is the Democratic nominee.
You see what's happening,
so
Marsha? There's a Mamdani personality cult that's taking over the city. And I see it right now. It's the MAGAification. It's the MAGAification of the Democratic Party right now. If you are not down with a guy you barely know, we don't know this guy. I still haven't met him. I'm sure he's a great guy. But when you have people like Congressman Meeks say, I don't know him. When you have people like Congressman Torres say, oh, I'm going to meet with him.
Congressman Torres defended Mamdani.
Yeah, I know. And I saw
against
xenophobia. But listen,
so
when you have Democrats that just say, I don't know this guy, I'm concerned about some of the rhetoric that he said, they'll primary you. They're already lined up. They're calling you Democrat and Amoli. They're lining up primaries. Ask Senator Jessica Ramos if you guys are lining up primaries already. We're seeing the MAGAification of the Democratic Party behind the cult of personality, because behind that smile, behind the charisma, behind the energy, there is a very light resume on executive management.
What JC doesn't respect is that...
I do respect. Why would you say that? I respect.
Over 40,000 New Yorkers voted in the Democratic Party for the first time. This is the first election in modern New York City history where 18 to 39-year-olds are the highest voting bloc. That's great for democracy. It's a beautiful thing. We have new voices participating.
You know what would be even more beautiful? Having non-party registered independent voters be able to vote in opening primaries. That would be beautiful.
Groceries and rent stabilized,
but having
more affordable housing in New York would be beautiful.
Having government-run supermarkets in New York City, that kind of socialist message is not going to bode well. And I'm telling you right now that there are a lot of New Yorkers that are concerned about the socialist agenda that your candidate is pushing.
Affordability is the #1 topic for New Yorkers, both in the Democratic primary and in the general election. You guys are just mad that Zohran Mamdani he's the best messenger on the #1 issue for New York.
The question really is what kind of affordability, and I think that's what the independent candidates are trying to discuss.
I think you're absolutely right, because freezing the rents will limit the housing supply that we currently have. Having government-run supermarkets and grocery stores is going to make competition for bodega owners that I deeply care about in New York City. And quite frankly, free buses is going to hurt the MTA budget even more.
So none of this is really that radical. This is about making New Yorkers' lives a little bit better, a little bit more affordable, which is what we all ultimately want.
So let me just ask you, we have about 15 seconds left. What effect did Donald Trump saying Andrew Cuomo should stay in the race have? You have 30 seconds. You get 15 and you get 15.
Donald Trump might be the least popular person in New York outside of maybe rats and expensive rents. And so if you get endorsed by Donald Trump in New York City, your chances are slim to none. Slim is probably out the door.
Every time Donald Trump says anything about this race, it just makes it more and more likely that Assemblyman Mamdani will be mayor of New York City.
I agree with JC on that.
So if he wants an Assemblyman Mamdani, which the Republicans would love, Marsha.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But there's more right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. Thank you for joining me. Does the healthcare system work? And with Medicaid cuts coming from Washington, do New Yorkers think the time has come for universal health care? They're weighing in on your point. Do you think the United States healthcare system works?
No.
Definitely not.
Not fully, no.
If you have the money for it.
I don't know the system very well, but for me, it works.
I don't know, it works out for me. I've had a couple of surgeries, no complications.
Well, it works for some.
It could work better.
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because it's all about money and pills. They just do symptoms.
Let's take a look at my health care insurance, which is from the marketplace. The Obama exchange. It's gone up double-digit percentage since Obama introduced it.
Should everybody have health care even if they can't afford to pay for it?
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why?
You're only as strong as the weakest link, right?
Because this is the United States.
Because this is a kind society.
Because it's a human right.
No one asks to be born, but we all get whatever body we get, and we should help each other live as healthy as we can.
It's a human right, I think. In my country, Russia, we have a all-around health care, even though, obviously it's limited, it's free.
We deserve health care because other countries can do it, right? We're supposed to be the best country in the world.
It's a tough question with illegals because they shouldn't be here. And you're paying for it. I don't pay taxes. You're paying for it.
Will the United States ever have universal health care?
I sure hope so.
Yes, I think we're on our way there.
Not in my lifetime, no. Maybe not in yours. I don't know, it'll be a while. They can't even pass a budget now, let alone pass universal health care, which is a very controversial topic.
I doubt it.
I would love it if we did. I have hope for the future.
Right now, I don't have insurance because I can't afford it. So if I'm starting to start a family, I would love that, and that's something that I'm thinking about too. So, absolutely.
Hopefully, but I think we're too greedy for that. Well, not we, but they.
I doubt it. It's a little bit too socialist.
Do you think the United States will ever have universal health care?
That's like asking me if I believe in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny.
We are back with independent mayoral candidate Jim Walden. At one time you were the only independent in the race, and now it's getting awfully crowded out there. I wonder, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself from Curtis Leo, who has the animal rights line, Andrew Cuomo, Mayor Adams, and there's this guy, Mr. Hernandez.
Right.
It's a lot of independents. How do you differentiate yourself?
So first of all, on the campaign trail, I'm running a fundamentally different campaign than they are. I'm sure you know I've jumped out of a plane. I've skateboarded. I'm very active.
Son?
My son is a critical part of my campaign infrastructure. So I'm bringing to people a lot of joy, a lot of great ideas, a lot of listening. As someone who's not a politician. I understand that I've chosen the political arena, but at core, I'm not a politician. So that kind of energy and spirit, I'm almost 60 years old, but I'm very young. I think people find so refreshing. And I'm also very candid with people, and I'm not scripted like a politician. In terms of the substance, for 30 years, I've been fighting alongside New Yorkers to solve problems. I fundamentally believe that one of the reasons that we're in the state we're in is because political leadership can't solve problems. That's what I've done for 30 years, whether it's getting the food stamp program fixed, whether it's dealing with lead in NYCHA buildings. I've spent a lot of time, not because I had to, but because I wanted to, standing alongside New Yorkers solving problems. So I think that differentiates me because I'm not doing this for any other reason.
So what's the most fun you've had with all these stunts that you've pulled?
I would say jumping out of the plane was the greatest.
Were you scared at all?
I'm not crazy about heights.
Have you ever jumped out of a plane before?
No.
This was the first time?
It was the first time. And it was,
oh my
honestly,
God, what was that like?
So when I got my feet over the lip of the plane, I thought I was going to freeze. But then you see this beauty below you, and all I wanted to do was get out of the plane.
Seriously?
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Weren't you afraid that it might not open?
No, I wasn't. So it really was great. And
was your heart beating?
No, I actually don't remember any feeling in my body at all. It was almost all like just taking in the sight. And then when you're flying around, because you can steer the parachute, it really just is a surge of energy like I'm not sure that I felt before. I've done other, kind of adrenaline type things, but this was great.
So what was it like suddenly landing on Earth?
That was fine. You just kind of slide in on your butt. So I'm a pretty coordinated guy.
They told you what to do.
Oh yeah. And you can't jump alone. You have to do it with tandem. So I had a tandem guy on my back. Next time I'm doing it just solo.
Okay, well, keep us posted. You know, you've been a federal prosecutor in the Eastern District, and for years you fought for justice for New Yorkers. If you were mayor, how would that change in terms of fighting for justice for New Yorkers?
I think at bottom, I'm still a prosecutor, so I'm not prosecuting bad guys so much, although as mayor, I am going to prosecute some bad guys with some innovative programs to deal with things like bail reform, which everyone now says is broken. I knew it was broken.
Yeah, but you're not going to get the legislature to do that.
Oh, I don't need it.
Carl Hastie regards bail reform as one of his hallmark achievements, so how would you get them to change it?
Well, I won't need the power because I actually looked at the charter of the city of New York, and it gives the mayor the power of the magistrate.
Looking at the charter, what a concept.
I know, crazy, huh? So I'm going to start a court that is specifically designed to get at people who are career criminals, who, even if they're arrested for small things, so that they will stay in jail. If the DA's office is hamstrung by the state law, the city of New York does not have to fall in line there. And if Albany sues me over it, I'll take it. There's a lot of ways that I want to increase the muscularity of city government so that we can do things like take back our subways. Like, we have subways that aren't clean. They don't run on time. There's crime there. If we take back our subways, like, it will be better for New Yorkers.
What does that mean, taking back our subways?
Literally, before the MTA was created back in the late 60s because New York couldn't get its fiscal act together. Now we're in a shape that this year we'll have a budget surplus, thankfully. We'll still need funding from Albany. We'll still need funding.
Do you agree with Andrew Cuomo that the mayor should take control of the transit authority?
I think that it would be a mistake to take, I mean, the transit authority is enormous and it covers things outside of New York. I'm focused on the two problems that we have.
No, I mean, the MTA has, the MTA covers the trains and other things, but the transit authority is just the subways and the buses.
Yeah, so I believe that we need to take over the subways as a first step. Once we can show everyone that we can do a better job running our subways, keeping them clean, keeping them safe. Safety is our problem right now, but once we can manage them better, I think that we'll be in better shape.
So would you say that you relate well to New Yorkers and their problems?
I do, because I came from a very, very broken upbringing where I literally had to leave my house and sleep on a floor for a year and work odd jobs just to get myself to college. I paid my own way. I'm not complaining about that. But there were a lot of bumps along the way when I couldn't pay my bills, I had bad landlords. So I've had my own affordability crisis.
So you understand what it's like?
I do. And I didn't have to deal with systemic racism. I mean, so their kids in New York City have deeper poverty than I felt and have to deal with those sorts of structural impediments. So I want, why so much of my focus is on the NYCHA community, kids in poverty, et cetera, is because I want to bring them into the free market. There's a lot that we should be doing for people in poverty that we're not doing. We can do it if we take the gloves off of our business sector and our real estate sector and let them really build and come and generate new jobs.
So let me ask you this. Do you watch TV? And if you do, what's the favorite show you're watching right now?
I don't watch much TV. I work, but I am watching a show with my wife now called The Agency. It's one of these streaming TV shows.
And you like it?
So I liked Game of Thrones. That's probably my favorite one.
Really?
I did. I watched all of Game of Thrones.
You'd be a hero with my daughter. So Yankees or Mets?
So I love both of them.
A politician.
Yeah, there you go.
Giants or Jets?
I love both of them.
Oh my God!
I don't pick sides on this stuff. As mayor, you got to love everyone, and that's what I'm going to do.
So, what's your fun fact about you that we don't know?
Other than jumping out of planes and skateboarding,
that's pretty big.
I sing. So, and we went to Brighton Beach. We had a band. We had a campaign event there, and I sang 3 songs for the crowd. They liked it very much, and we're going to do that citywide.
What 3 songs do you sing?
So we started out with Stevie Wonder's "Living in the City," and then we did "I Got You, I Feel Good" by James Brown. The "I Feel Good," and then I did "New York, New York." You got to do New York, New York.
I'm tempted to ask you to sing, but I'm not going to embarrass you. So
start spreading the news.
He's singing. He's doing it, guys.
I'm leaving. Okay.
You're good.
Thank you.
So last but not least, what's your go-to music when you're in the car?
Oh, 70s rock.
70s rock?
I love 70s rock. I'm a big Foo Fighters fan, too. That's more of a 90s current group, but I love Led Zeppelin. I love the Stones. You know, all of those 70s bands really spoke to me as a kid.
I can relate. On that note, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you at home for joining us as well. We are back with J.C. Polanco and Trip Yang. One more Mamdani question, and that is this. There are some people who are concerned about his effect, if he becomes mayor, on the ability of the Democrats to take control of the House in 2026, November 2026. Yep. The question is that a true concern, especially since you can see, President Trump sort of salivating at the idea of using that to help take and keep Republican seats?
I don't think it really is a true concern. Time will tell. But if you look at national polling right now, Bernie Sanders, Democratic Socialist U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, is actually the highest polling elected official in the entire country. AOC polls very well here in New York, as well as nationally. And Zohran Mamdani, his approval ratings in New York are very high.
Yeah, but you have to take a look at what seats they want to take. And so let's think about here in New York. For example, Laura Gillen in Long Island, won her seat by a hair's breadth, and you have people up in Westchester and Rockland and like that also have won by small margins. Does that give an opening for Republicans to play the socialist card and try to defeat Democrats?
It absolutely will. Listen, Assemblyman Mamdani is a socialist. That's just a fact. And I know that socialism is very sexy right now here in New York City, especially among young people. But outside of this bubble that we live in, it's frowned upon, espörecially his other policies on crime, etc. It absolutely will cost Democrats their seats. So while you have Minority Leader Jeffries thinking about having the majority and how to win purple districts, he has to now deal with the fact that the largest city in the country, the most important job next to President of the United States, may go socialist.
He needs seats other than the ones in New York.
Yeah, he needs purple seats. That's what I'm saying. He needs to win purple districts where President Trump did very well in. If you have a Mayor Mamdani, it takes those seats up for grabs because they're going to be able to use the fact that we have a socialist mayor in November who talks about...
Your friend here is shaking his head.
Of course he is, but this is because he lives in a bubble. He lives in the New York City bubble, and the hubris of New York City Democrats who don't seem to understand that in order for you to win the majority in the Senate and in the House, you need to win purple states and purple districts. That's just like, they don't understand that.
I think what actually will hurt Republicans in 2026 is Donald Trump's one big ugly bill that eliminates hundreds of thousands of jobs in energy and manufacturing sectors, that actually throws millions of New Yorkers off of health care.
Right. Things like that.
SNAP benefits. You're absolutely right, Marcia. That is a bigger albatross. Look, the reality is, if a Democrat says we need to subsidize housing, Republicans are going to call a Democrat a communist anyways. So Republicans are going to have bad faith attacks in 2025.
It's different.
Anyways.
It's different with Assemblyman Mamdani. You know this, Trip.
If he becomes the mayor, he becomes a blueprint, a replica for how you win on affordability.
Trip. It becomes that's a democratic hubris. That's a democratic hubris in New York City. It's a blueprint. Blueprint for what? Nowhere in the country are they going to go with the kind of decriminalization that Assemblyman Mamdani is pushing. Nowhere in the country are they going to go for these government-run subsidies that you're going to see that he's pushing. We're not talking about safety nets. We're talking about a major expansion in the safety net.
These ideas are not that radical.
These ideas are radical when you consider that the top 1% of New York City is paying the overwhelming majority of our government services and our taxes in New York City. You're going to push those people away, and it's going to be a problem for New York later. I'm telling you,
I simply
it's a democratic hubris.
Professor Polanco over here. I simply disagree with that. Look, the fact of the matter remains that Donald Trump, his approval numbers are already starting to decline since last November. And so his policies hurting American families, that's probably going to be the albatross for the Republican Party, JC.
I don't understand how you...
Let me ask you
I don't understand
question,
that.
Though, so let me interject. So now we have Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer who have not endorsed. What do they do, given the fact that both of them have elections in November 2026 that they're worried about?
Well, when you consider the MAGAification of the Democratic Party, the cult-like manner behind Assemblyman Mamdani, the fact that they have not endorsed him is reasons why. Go on social media, Trip. They have taken out their swords and they're coming after these folks. You're talking about primarying these people, that they're not real Democrats, that we have to take them out. It's not a joke. These are your people that are doing this online. You're talking about this. This is the Luigi Mangione Club coming after these folks.
No, that's simply not
absolutely true.
That's simply not true.
It's true.
Sometimes when you have a relatively young, Zohran Mamdani is a 33-year-old state assembly member. When you have someone who's relatively young, he ran a perfect outsider campaign to win the nomination. Sometimes Democratic leadership don't know you yet. Over time, don't know him. We are in the early stages of a general election. Zohran's already been endorsed by many people who endorsed Eric Adams and Cuomo in the past, such as Congressmember Adriana Espaillat, Brooklyn County Leader Ronise Bachat, for example. Over time, he'll collect more and more and earn, crucially, more and more of these Democratic endorsements.
So let's talk about Eric Adams.
your friend.
He had a bit of a tough week when Tom Donilon, the interim police commissioner for a couple of months, filed a RICO suit, charging that the NYPD was run as a corrupt organization. Is this sour grapes, baseless, as the mayor said, or does it have any residual effect on his campaign?
I think it does have a residual effect. Look, when you have a former commissioner put his name on a lawsuit under oath saying this happened, I mean, now it's a
Even though the mayor says it's baseless?
Of course. I mean, what else could the mayor say? We don't know if it's baseless or not. There has been no opportunity for these cases to be heard.
Why would it be filed now? Do you think there's a political intent here to get him out of the race?
First of all, well, I don't know if there's a political intent. I'm not familiar with former Commissioner Donilon at all, but the timing couldn't get worse for Mayor Adams, considering the fact that he wants to make a dent in this election. He's not getting matching funds. He's trying to raise money, trying to make a good campaign, a lively one, and to have a lawsuit filed right now, you couldn't pick a worse timing.
Trip, is there a path for Eric Adams?
Absolutely not. This is the latest example of a loss in public confidence in Mayor Adams. You go back to the federal indictment last year from President Biden's DOJ. This is just the latest instance that New Yorkers simply don't trust him.
So this reminds people that he was indicted and beat it?
His administration has extremely low approval ratings, specifically because of his leadership. There are good public servants in the city administration, but Eric Adams individually has very low approval ratings. New Yorkers don't have confidence in him. It's the latest sign of that. And look, there is a better chance of the New York Jets winning the Super Bowl this season than Eric Adams winning re-election.
That's a damning thing for you to say.
I'm not wrong.
So what about Hochul? What about Governor Hochul? Does she have to endorse in this race?
I think, again, depends on the MAGAification of the Democratic Party. If she doesn't, you better believe, go on Twitter, go on X, if she doesn't, the Mamdani cult is out in full force, and they're going to primary anyone that does not line up behind their candidate.
Are they going to primary Kathy Hochul?
They'll threaten everything. They'll threaten what his coalition did during the presidential election when they decided to stay home and not vote for President Biden during his primary. These are the same people that are the absolute purists, that if you don't agree with them, they don't support you. You saw it during President Biden's primary.
The vast majority of Democrats support the Democratic nominee, whether it's the Democratic nominee for governor or mayor. Governor Hochul is a really strong and smart leader, good legislative accomplishments. What you've seen from her is that she is actually one of the first people since Iran won the nomination to defend him against Donald Trump and others Islamophobic texts.
Chip, listen, you're talking about Islamophobic. This is what I'm talking about.
I think eventually what will happen is that many Democratic leaders will. I don't want to speak for the governor, for example, but I do think she'll continue to say warm words about Mamdani. And critically, Zohran Mamdani has said warm words about the governor. Warm words. As she gears up for re-election.
Because if he gets mayor, he has to work with her, or whoever.
Yes. Or whoever. And they have to work together, which I think they'll see a better relationship.
Happens to be governor. I mean,
right. I think they'll have a good relationship.
Marsha, every time that Tripp says, "Oh, they said something positive," what he means is that they stood up against Islamophobia. I'll stand up against Islamophobia. I have publicly every time that President Trump attacks Sami Mamdani on his Islamophobia. But it's not about that. It's about the issues. So none of the people that you've said, "Oh, they spoke very greatly of him," have said, "I agree with Sami Mamdani."
Well, they do agree that affordability is a major crisis.
Everyone agrees affordability is a crisis. It's how you go about it. That's the issue. And at the end of the day, this is what we have to admit, and this is what you and I will continue to fight about. You have a 33-year-old who lacks executive management experience, who's going to become, most likely, the mayor of New York City. People are going to pause and ask questions, and that's okay without having the MAGAification of the Democratic Party and the cult of Mamdani come out after you like you're seeing right now.
If Zohran Mamdani becomes mayor, you have to give him and his team a chance.
But he's not mayor yet.
This is
so this is where people ask, what experience do you have in order to lead the city? It's okay to ask that question, because this is what's happening, Marsha. If you ask the question, okay, 33-year-old Assembly Mamdani, what in your background says that you could be the CEO of New York City government? Tell me how you can manage a budget of $113 billion. Tell me about your background. He can't answer that.
Hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers
do that.
He has the vision.
Hundreds of thousands of but this is the problem. Our campaign does not make you qualified. Ideas do not make you qualified. So the idea that a Democrat like Hakeem Jeffries or Richie Torres or Schumer may want to say, "Tell me about your background and experience."
We live in a democracy. If the voters decide that he should be the mayor, then we got to give him a chance. Because in this scenario, he could be elected mayor.
We're not there yet. Who's arguing that?
I hear that there's a desire for generational change. Yes. What about that?
Yes, 100%. Marsha, this is the first election in modern New York City history where 18 to 39-year-olds are the largest voting bloc. Usually, it's middle-aged, the more senior voters.
Why are you pointing at me? I'm 48. Don't do that. You see how you pointed at me? Sure. Chip, it's a good thing to see young people engaged. But
it is a great thing in democracy.
People, we have
New voices, we need that. It's so hard.
It's true.
It is so hard. Look, we interact with young people every day as part of our, political public affairs roles. It is so hard sometimes to get people who are in their 20s to be engaged in local politics. Because usually, a lot of times, they only pay attention if it's a presidential election, right? It's so hard in a local New York race. This is a good thing for democracy, a great thing for civic engagement.
It's a great thing. I teach young people. I understand that. You're right.
I bet your students will be voting for Zoran Mamdani.
I'm sure. I'm
telling
you, he's one of them. I understand that. But it's okay to ask the question, who are you? You came out of nowhere. What experience do you have in your background that tells us that you can handle this job? That is okay without the cult of Mamdani threatening you with a primary, which is what's happening with the Democrats.
He is
it's
a
a problem.
charming guy.
He is. I don't even know the guy. I don't even know him yet, but I want to be his friend because I think he seems like a good guy to have a conversation with.
As the kids would say, he's got a lot of riz, okay?
I'm sure he does, but there needs to be experience there. He has to be able to say, this is my experience and how I think I can handle the job. And that's okay without the cult of Mamdani threatening you with a primary.
Do you think he can handle the job?
I am very optimistic that Zoran Mamdani, if he's mayor, he will, because look, he's going to have talented people around him. Certainly, he has pledged, he has mentioned publicly that he'll hire experienced leaders, individuals with a lot of government experience in these various jobs and leading these various agencies. So look, I'm very optimistic about it. I will say this, a lot of New Yorkers feel that over the last 12 years, that New York City agencies haven't been run as optimally, as efficiently, as effectively as they could be, right? And quite frankly, those were with mayors that have been in politics for decades and decades. So sometimes we do need a fresh perspective.
Remember this. This is a Democrat. Remember this. Remember next time President Trump appoints an unqualified person to be a cabinet secretary. This
has
discussion.
happened many times.
And what did we say? Wait, what did we say? We said it was absurd to give someone like Pete Hegseth the keys to be the Secretary of Defense. We said that. He had no experience to lead. There's nothing on his resume that says he could lead such a gigantic organization. But now when it comes to the cult of Mamdani, he's great. He can hire the best people around him. Give him an opportunity.
In a democracy,
a
mayor is elected.
Well, he hasn't been elected yet.
Appointed positions.
No, he hasn't been elected yet. So let's talk about his qualifications and let's see how his ideas can translate. But right now, just because a Democrat asks the question, you can't immediately just threaten a primary, get in line, or we're going to attack you.
No one's saying that.
Yes, we have. We have seen it.
No one's
Senator,
saying that.
You want to talk about senators that are primaries
this year?
Are you not online? Do you not see the threats of primaries all over the city for anyone that does not fall in line? Give me a break.
Which Democratic-leaning labor union, which Democratic leader or elected official is saying we're going to have a primary right now?
We're talking about labor unions. Now you want to divide it. Let's talk about the Democratic activists.
I'm not talking
Let's talk about the Democratic activists. No, we are.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of voters who voted for Zoran Mamdani and many more who will vote for him.
We have elected officials.
Hundreds of thousands of voters who didn't vote. Only 13% of the electorate in New York City voted in the primary. So the question then becomes, what do the other 77%, 87% do?
I don't know. I mean, we have divided opposition, and I don't know whether the numbers are good. If this continues, Marcia, if you have all of these men running in their own line against Assemblyman Mamdani, we got to remember, your viewers have to remember, you don't need a majority of the votes. It's a plurality. So whoever gets the most votes that day wins the election. So I don't know whether or not it makes any sense. This is hubris. This is just complete ego with these other men running on their own lines. They should really think about coalesce.
So what you want to see is a mono race between Mr. Mamdani and who?
Whoever.
Who's your candidate, JC?
I don't have. I'm an independent. I'm here. I'm an open
who do you want
book.
To see
listening.
I mean, if you want a two-person race, who do you want the two people to be?
Whoever's leading in the polls, it's the truth. I mean, you don't want to start.
They're all going to be behind in the polls. It doesn't matter who runs against the Democratic
nominee.
nominee.
If there's one person, who should it be?
I will say, of the three very, very flawed candidates of Eric Adams, Curtis Lee, and Andrew Cuomo, Cuomo is probably the least flawed of those three, but even his numbers are not great right now. So, Cuomo probably of those three is the strongest because, the mayor and Curtis Lee, they're not going anywhere.
Former Governor Cuomo.
So, do you have the last word? Do you think Cuomo's the strongest candidate?
Right now, I think Governor Cuomo, if he were to get support from Eric Adams and some votes from, or if Mr. Sliwa were to support him, he'd probably win this November.
He's got to put in the effort, though.
And on that note, thank you both for joining me, and thank you at home for joining us, too.